Howdy. Welcome back to Dion Talk. The dark side of real estate education. Not real estate investing, that has its challenges, but the dark side of real estate education. 6 traps that people fall into when you first jump into YouTube University and type in those magic words of real estate investing. What do? Or you pick up a podcast, or you start buying Audible books. And there's all this advice out there. How do you filter through the noise to find what works for you? First, you want to have clear goals. What are you trying to accomplish? Are you trying to become an entrepreneur and create a business? Are you trying to create generational wealth? Are you trying to reach financial freedom to make work optional? Is it so you can retire early and travel and scuba dive like a completely lazy person? Or is it so you can pursue a job that you love without having to worry about how much you make? But I'm going to cover 6 things that people fall into when they type in real estate investing. Because as we're finding with AI, the answer you get to your questions is not always the right one. It's the one that has the most answers that say what your answer is. So if enough people have the wrong opinion, that's the opinion AI thinks is right, or at least tells you that is right. So when you're searching on YouTube and you put in how to reach financial freedom, how to invest in stocks or crypto or real estate or anything to where you can have a better financial future, you're going to find the people who are sharing how they did it, or the people who are sharing how they make money by telling people how they did it. The first one is very obvious. The first one I'm going to talk about, I've talked about 100 times. I've made videos about them. It's the next 5 that might not be so obvious. I've been kicked out of groups for saying my opinion of some of those other traps that people fall into. But the first one is when you're searching online, you are going to find the most common suggested videos are the ones that get the most views, and fear sells. So you're going to find a lot of Crash Bro videos, a lot of people that make good fancy charts that show why the next big crash is right around the corner. Consistently, every couple of days, for over a decade, the 20% crash that is coming. Eventually, they'll be right. And here's what people get wrong about the Crash Bros. It's not that they're wrong. It's that if they're right, what they're telling you to do is wrong. The idea with the Crash Bros is they say, because a crash is coming, you should wait and buy at the bottom of the market. You don't want to buy and then lose value in an asset. If I knew with absolute certainty, had a crystal ball that actually worked, and I knew a 20% crash was going to happen next year, I'd still buy my next deal this year. I'm not going to give up a year's worth of cash flow to save a percentage on my down payment and lose because I won't know when the bottom of the market is. You'll hear double dip crash, don't catch a falling knife. And by the time people realize the bottom happened, you're already past it. And now you're buying with other people that are trying to jump into the market. The competition gets harder. Lending disappears when that crash happens. So it's not that the Crash Bros are wrong. It's what they're telling you to do if they were right that is wrong. Anyone telling you to hurry and buy, you should block. Anyone telling you to wait and buy, you should block. The 2 things that tell you when to buy real estate is 1, are you ready? Meaning you've studied your market, you know what a good asset looks like and a bad asset looks like. You have your down payment, closing costs, immediate repair money, money for reserves, and there's nothing major going on in your life, no death, divorce, no birth, like all of those things. Take a pause when those things are happening. That's the first thing. And the second thing that tells you to buy is, did you find a great deal? Neither one of those say price, interest rate, or rents have to be a certain thing. Avoid the Crash Bros. The second thing on this 6 items or 6 traps that people fall into is to avoid the hype. This is just as bad as the Crash Bros. And it's not the hype of you better buy now or you're going to miss out, right? That is also somebody who needs to be blocked. Buy when you find a great deal. But the hype, and I'm going to name some people who one of them cannot stand me because we did a Zoom together and I pointed out how I don't like what they do. For me, I was very transparent that what they were doing is not what I like to do. That doesn't mean what they like to do isn't right for somebody. If you are in the hustle culture, If you follow Cody Sanchez, Pace Morby, maybe even Grant Cardone, and you think bigger's not bad enough. I've got to be an entrepreneur. I got to be running 7 different businesses. I've got to have a team and I've got to scale beyond everything I can think of. That is not for me. And it's not just that I'm the lazy investor, it's that I knew what my end goal was. I wanted time freedom. Time freedom didn't come from having several businesses to run. The person who says, I want to be an entrepreneur because I don't want to work 40 hours a week and I don't want to have a boss is the person who quickly learns you now work 80 hours a week and everybody with a Yelp account is your boss. I'm not saying Cody Sanchez is wrong. She is super successful. Pace Morby, the guy's killing his net worth. Like, I'm not even a rounding error in his net worth. But do you want to work 75 hours a day like he does? We did a Zoom and I said, look, don't get any of your ick on me. And he took offense. So I apologize. I'm the bigger person. Maybe I wasn't clear enough to say, I don't want to be the hustle culture person. I don't want to be chasing the next big thing. I want to buy cash flowing assets and I want to sit back and talk to a tenant maybe once a year, maybe sometimes twice a year when there's an issue, and get that horizontal mailbox money where I can lay down on the couch and the money comes in anyway. Yeah, it's really hard to find time to actually lay down on the couch. You have to schedule your naps when you have time freedom to do whatever you want and the energy to actually go do stuff. So beware the crash pros, but also beware the hype. Don't fall into the trap of, oh, you got to do it now. You can reach financial freedom in 6 months or 2 years. All you got to do is buy my $8,000 weekend course. No, avoid that. Personal opinion, courses shouldn't cost more than $1,000. Anything that costs more than $1,000, you'd be better buying a bad asset and losing it. You'd learn more. The third thing on these list of 6 traps that people fall into, advanced strategies that keep you poor, or advanced strategies for beginners who like stress. These are the groups that I get kicked out of when I don't say the strategy's bad. I say the strategy might not be the one to start with. I want to buy cash flowing assets. So it's very easy to fall into the hype of, well, the Bird method lets you own a cash flowing asset with none of your money in the deal. So why not start with that? No money in your deal. When you're starting, you generally have no money. That's why you realize, hey, man, I've been broke most of my life. What can I do different? So you start looking at different things. So the Bird method pops up. Flipping pops up. You can possibly create a year's worth of income in a few months if your flip goes well. With the Burr method, you can make cash flow every month without putting your money in the deal. You can use hard money to buy it, hard money to do the rehab, rent it out, refinance it, get all the money back, pay off your hard money, and maybe put money in your pocket and then get cash flow every month. Sounds amazing. There are people who were very successful with this between 2011 and 2020. Prices were trending up, interest rates were trending down. A perfect market to do those risky strategies. Because if you mess up your after repair value, you have trouble getting it to appraise, interest rates could triple. All of these things that could happen didn't happen for about a decade. So not good people at the strategy were successful and made courses. Now, if you are somebody like Pace Morby or Nate Barger, who also blocks me from all of his groups, and you have the team in place and you have the skill set to analyze the deals really well from the get-go, and you have your contractors and handyman a relationship with your city where you don't want to go to jail for what you do to your permit office, you are probably going to be fine doing the Burr method and flipping today in today's market. But that new investor starting out, these are advanced strategies for beginners who like stress. So many ways to make a mistake that I believe, just my opinion, buy a rental. Learn how to find leases, how to manage a tenant, how to get utilities in your name with landlord contracts with utility companies. All of these things that you need to learn. How do you set your rents? How do you pay yourself? Do you need an LLC or not? All of the questions that are come up, why add the advanced strategy when you're starting out and there's already enough ways for you to mess up? When you go online, what's going to get the most views? If you flip, you can make $100,000 in 3 months on this deal. Of course, that's going to get more views than I saved for 2 years and I bought a duplex. I moved into one side and I reduced how much I was spending on housing. That's not exciting. It's boring. It's not sexy. It doesn't get a lot of views. I almost didn't put a house hacking section in my book because it's so boring. but it is one of the reasons why I was able to retire early. The fourth trap that people fall into that could make you stay broke longer than you need to when you start looking at real estate education online here on YouTube University is, and I'm going to do an overshare here. This is one of the reasons why I got hit in boot camp in the Marines. Good times. Imagine Marines doing land nav training, and you're out in the hills at Camp Pendleton in California, because I was a Hollywood Marine, which means you went to boot camp at San Diego, not Lejeune, because we didn't have chiggers, the little bugs in the sand. But you're doing land nav. It's your first time in the month or two where there isn't a drill instructor staring at you, breathing literally on your neck. And you're just enjoying yourself. And so these four Marines link arms like a bunch of teenagers and are skipping through the mountains on their land nav course. And they say, lions and tigers and bears, oh my. And the drill instructor sees you. That's a bad day. But it's syndications, REITs, and partnerships, oh my. This is a trap you're going to fall into on YouTube University. You're going to see who wants to manage tenants? Who wants to do all of the work? You don't want to call at 10 o'clock at night for a plumbing issue, which is actually going to be you texting a handyman or a plumber to go get it taken care of. You don't want any of those things. You need, especially if you have a lot of money, the syndications can reach out because you have to be uh, wealthy enough for them to solicit you because they're more than likely going to lose your money. And I've heard them say, I don't want to lose mom and pop's life savings, but that millionaire, I'll lose his 50 grand all the time. Syndications, you just give your money to somebody and you're going to get a big return. Well, in 2020 and 2021, the three amigos, me, lumberjack landlord Michael Zuber from One Rental at a Time, called out the crash in syndications that has been happening now for about a year. Millions and millions and millions of dollars lost. Properties that were sold for 46 million are being sold at 14 million, and Ken McElroy passed on the deal at 14 million because it still wasn't good enough. That's how bad some of these syndications are failing because of their predictions, the lack of control that you have. And then real estate investing trust. This sounds sexy because they have to pay out over 90% of their income as dividend. Well, that sounds like a lot of money. What if they're losing money? And you don't get to depreciate any of that income. So you're going to pay taxes on it. And you have a lack of control. It's stocks without being diversified in stocks. And partnerships. We can learn a big lesson from guys like Christian Osgood and Cody Davis from Multifamily Strategies. Their partnership is amazing, but even they have realized that divesting you of partnerships is how you stabilize and create more cash flow for yourself. The lack of control with syndications and REITs is also a component of partnerships. Have you met people? But there's a lot of videos on education that say, well, if you don't have the money, you've got the time. You'll put in the effort, bring in the sweat equity. Somebody else will bring the money. There's a ton of millionaires out there that don't have the time to find a rental. But if you find a rental, you can make half the money. But you're also going to be making a partnership. Look up divorce rates. Those are partnerships where people took an oath. Partnerships in real estate is just a partnership where you signed a contract. The fifth trap that you're going to run into because of the Dave Ramsey group out there is that for financial security, you should pay off your mortgages or pay off your house before you retire. So let's look at this as a couple of tiered things. First, the last thing I want to do is pay off good debt. You want me to lose levered appreciation? I'm gaining appreciation on multiples of what I've invested because I have the debt. You want me to lose levered depreciation? $240,000 in profit last year, zero pennies paid in rental income tax because of levered depreciation. I get to depreciate about $7 million in property, so probably $5 million in buildings after investing $320,000 over a decade. I am able to write off more depreciation. At some point, I'm going to pay taxes, but it's been a decade. Haven't yet. Thought I was going to this year. Probably will next year. And then pay off your house before you retire. This is the best good debt you can get. It's the lowest interest rate. You can get that 30-year fixed rate debt. Sorry, Dave, good debt exists. Dave Ramsey gives awesome advice for people who are bad with money and who people who want to stay just above broke, meaning you need a job, a job, because you're just above broke. I get it. I was probably that person for a while, but once you learn how good debt works with moderation, my 70-50 rule, I don't go above 70% levered position when I'm in growth mode, and I want to be at 50% or less in retirement, which I've been retired for 3 years now, so I've got that going. I still want leverage. I don't want to pay the debt off. The tenants will pay the debt off over a long enough period of time. I also don't want to lose the asset protection that comes from having a bank in first position. There's like a laundry list of reasons why that that fifth trap, pay off your debt, can get you. Because do you want to pay off your consumer debt? Absolutely. Do you want to pay off your bad debt? Yes. Do you want to pay off your worst debt? Adjustable interest rates, things with a low reevaluation period? Absolutely. A balloon payment debt? Sure. But 30-year fixed rate debt? I'll take more, please. And then the sixth reason that you will find in YouTube University that sounds amazing goes all the way back to Kiyosaki's Rich Dad Poor Dad and a game called Monopoly. This is called the stack. I actually think Brandon Turner coined the term the stack, maybe, or I first heard it on BiggerPockets, and he was probably on there when it came up. But it's Kiyosaki uses the reference of three green houses, one red hotel. Three green houses, one red hotel. So you buy a couple of duplexes, you sell them, you 1031 into a 10-unit apartment complex. This is the stack. You grab a few rentals, you let the levered appreciation kick in, you let the cash flow build up, you sell them and you 1031, which means delay the tax obligation to a future date or never if you keep 1031ing until you pass away. And then you buy the bigger is better. Here's where the stack loses me. One of the superpowers we have living in the United States is called 30-year fixed rate debt. That mortgage, where eventually in 2040, you're going to be paying off a mortgage at 2025's debt, the value of 2025, paying it off in 2040. That's why so many people have the stupidest argument I've ever heard. That person's only successful because they bought a house in 2000 when you could trade two goats and a bale of hay for it. Are you pretending that the next 20 years the dollar's going to gain value? Houses cost almost exactly what they did in 1970. What's happened is the dollar's lost value and it's going to continue to lose value. So if you buy properties now with 30-year fixed rate debt, no balloon payments, no loan reevaluation periods, no adjustable interest rates, you can fire and forget. You buy a mortgage and you really only think about that mortgage if interest rates drop low enough for you to refinance to significantly improve your cash flow, like most of us did in 2020. These are 6 traps that people fall into. Avoid the crash bows. There's every time it's going to be different. It's going to be new. And even if they're right, you still buy properties. Avoid the hype. Decide early on, are you an entrepreneur or are you an investor? I am not putting my money to work so I can own a job. I am putting my money to work so I don't need a job. Advanced strategies is for beginners who love stress. That's the burr, that's flipping, that's all those things that the videos get a lot of views on, but not too many people makes the videos when it doesn't work out. Syndications, REITs, and partnerships might not be the way. They can speed things up, but not with the same end result. Pay off your debt? No, thanks. I'll have the tenants do that. I worked very hard to create my good debt. Don't make me pay it off. And then the stack. Instead of stacking assets to buy assets that give me an uncertain future, I stacked assets and hope that they all perform better than my marriages. I actually want my properties to last until death do us part. You are going to be alive in 5 years. You should start investing like it. I recorded that intro so I can release it as a separate video in the future. I hope everybody's having a day full of amazing. Let's have an evening together and answer some questions. The rest of this video is to answer your questions and let me know what you're drinking. Oh, I need a chaser. Julie Anderson, howdy. Loving the thumbnail. Thank you. This was my idea of this is the dark side of real estate education. It's a creepy school. Rich, howdy. Good to see you. JLD Systems. Happy Tuesday from York, Pennsylvania. Howdy. Wayne Wong, good to see you. Frank, first time here. Do you guys just talk about real estate, no marriage or relationship advice? Frank is here often. And one of my rules is I don't give relationship advice. And I also advise not getting your relationship advice from AI because all AI will do is tell you to leave your partner. Nope. I can give some terrible parenting advice too. Michelle, howdy. Harsh reality to fire. Howdy. Good to see you here. You sense a rabbit hole here? Yes. You definitely can fall down the rabbit hole of tons of great content, edited videos with a soundtrack and B-roll instead of some guy just staring at a camera and talking to you, trying to mind dump what he did to reach financial freedom into you without having to learn the skills of editing videos. Uh, Chester, howdy. Dividend Dave with a super chat. Thank you for that. Appreciate it. A little sad there. Wasn't a dad joke in there. Chester, Brian, good to see you. Josh, you're at work, but here. Nice. Anna K, howdy. Thank you, Anna K, for going to the BiggerPockets binder webinar. Flavio, good afternoon from Grandview. Nice to see you here. And Flavio, Mikey, what's going on? Chris, howdy. Cracked canvas. How's retirement? Discover anything new under the water lately? Thanks for your time. No, retirement is amazing. Uh, the time freedom thing is cool. The thing I didn't expect is not being exhausted. There were so many years, right? I've been a Marine, a cop, and a truck driver, and I've raised three kids as a single parent. And always in those jobs, Marine, cop, and truck driver, none of them have like a 9 to 5 schedule. You have rotating schedules, you have duty, you have long shifts, you log your mechanic into your logbook so you can drive 24 hours in a day to make more money. I mean, this is how the world works. I remember 20 or 30 years of exhaustion, big bags under the eyes when I'm in my like early 30s because I just had no sleep. And so, like Millennial Mike having the new baby, I'm sure they're not getting any sleep right now. Uh, there was a day I had a sinus infection or something, and I had to go do a presentation at a work source. And I took Sudafed, but I was like, okay, this is an important presentation I'm doing. I'm going to take two so my nose clears up. And it was the 24-hour stuff. Basically, it was like a hit of meth. And it was the one time I remember in like a 20-year period where I wasn't tired. And it took drugs to do that on accident. Since I retired in 2022, every day is like that. I'm only awake when I feel like being awake. The nap can happen. And sometimes I take a nap, it's at night, like from midnight to 5 or something like that when I'm not gaming uh, or writing a book, which is done. And so I can actually get back to gaming now uh, until it comes time to record the Audible version after the editors are done. So retirement is amazing. The energy it was unexpected. And find anything new under the water. I don't dive much while I'm in Washington. The water here is cold, so you need a dry suit. It's not fun. Murky, can't see much. And the octopus are bigger than me. But I'm going to Thailand for the winter, and there'll be plenty of diving. I'm going to go to a few places I haven't been yet. I haven't dove around Phuket or any of those kind of places. I've always gone to the island, so we'll see how it goes this time. REI Jared, howdy. Are you in Oregon or Arizona? Rob, lions and tigers and jiggers. I think they were chiggers with a CH. I think so, but I didn't go to Camp Lejeune. Hopefully, if you went to Lejeune, you've seen all of you drank the water, you can be entitled to compensation. Chester, just over Roke. Howdy, David. Brian, has anyone in your circle used cost segregation with bone appreciation on short-term rentals to offset high W2 income top bracket, then switch to long-term rentals in year two, planning to self-manage? Any success stories? Tons. The lumberjack landlord had a six-figure tax return because he didn't qualify as a real estate professional, but his spouse did. And he had a significant income. And so he did cost segregations to get a massive return. So people in my circle, yes. Me, no. I didn't qualify as a real estate professional, and most of my life I didn't make enough money for it to matter. The reason I haven't done cost segregations, it might work for you. Do you have a large W-2 income, $300,000 or more a year? Maybe a cost segregation if you or your spouse qualifies as a real estate professional, which is not easy to do if you're making $300,000 a year from a W-2, because you have to have two metrics. The first one you can do 751 hours or more worked in real estate. But the second one is really hard to do if you're making $300,000 a year from your job. You have to work more in real estate than you do at your job. Most of the CPAs I've interacted with said most people with a W-2 have never met the second criteria, but their spouse could. The reason I don't do cost segs, first of all, just with levered appreciation and depreciation, I haven't had to pay rental income tax. I did pay taxes on some income, side hustle income, W-2 income when I had it. But a cost segregation, for anybody who hasn't done the research on this, is when you pull forward depreciation. So some of your depreciation is amortized over 27 and a half years. Some is 5 years, some is 10, some is 15. So it takes some of the shorter term stuff, the 5 or 10 or 15 stuff, about 25% of your available depreciation can be taken in year one, which only leaves you 75% of your depreciation left for the rest of that property's lifespan. In year one, will you have a good write-off against your income? Yes. But what will year two look like with a long-term rental when you only have 75% of your depreciation on the buildings on the property? Because it's not even on the whole value of the property, it's just the value of the upgrades. So I would talk to a tax pro before I ever made a decision like that. And I have talked to a couple different times. Hey, break down a cost seg to me. What would it do? Have zero impact on my W-2 income because I'm not a real estate professional. Okay. And reduce the amount of depreciation that I have going forward for 3 decades. So far, it's been a no every time. That doesn't mean it'll always be a no for me, and it doesn't mean it's a no for you. Like you've got to look at your specific, unique, individual situation. All right, Jared, I am pushing to 75% to 80% loan to value if I can get it in growth phase. That's where I was at, 70-ish. I was higher a few times. 70 was the goal. All of us are different. I have several levers to pull if I need money, 200,000 in the bank, high paying W-2, and potentially my 240. Yeah, I didn't have any of those levers. I was making like less than 20 bucks an hour. Uh, I had a little bit in a retirement account I could have tapped into, but no, I wanted to have a nice gap there. You are in a better position than I was. Uh, did in 2023 for that thing. Good. Ran a property as a short term in 23 and then flipped in January 24 to midterm. I don't do bonus stuff, but some people in my circle have, like you, Jared. Brian, thanks, Jared. I know Dion doesn't do one, but looking for some people that have done it and it was worth it. Would you do it again? Were the savings? We thought I would ask the Lumberjack landlord. He does live streams every Thursday at 6 p.m. Pacific, and he answers the questions just like this. So I would ask him about his cost seg experience, and Jared's probably reach out to him. Theodore, I find it that typically over 10 years, you'll either refinance your debt or sell. So why are we afraid of 10-year fixed? I want my properties to perform better than all of my marriages actually until death do us part. There are some investors like Kris Krohn who keep a property for 7 to 10 years and then sell before the big expensive item happens, but I'm setting aside money for those big expensive items. Imagine owning in your 50s, 60s, and 70s because the tenants paid it off over a long enough period of time. I've never done a cash out refinance. I've never taken out a home equity line of credit. I'm far below the 50% loan to value that I want, so I might do that. But rather, what I do is 100% finance a property going forward to add another property, not to lower the debt on one of mine. So 10-year fixed is not fixed unless it's completely paid off in 10 years. In 10 years, interest rates can be 18%. You ready for that? You want to think of 10 years? I never have to think of my debt. This is financial independence retired early at 52 without ever having to think of a refinance, of what will happen to interest rates in the future. The only thing that can happen with interest rates in the future is it goes low enough, would have to be below zero basically, for me to refinance the properties that I have. I'm not going to cash out refinance. I'm not going to do a HELOC. I'm not going to sell and do a 1031. I'm not doing the stack. Uh, that's my strategy. So it's not that we are afraid of 10-year fixed. It's that I don't like it. Maybe it fits your strategy. Kris Krohn is very successful. It's extremely successful. And he does, at least his videos from a while ago, keep a property for 7 to 10 years and then sell it to the tenant. Great strategy. Not mine. I don't want to sell any of them. I'm not creating generational wealth. What I'm doing is creating enough wealth to where when I'm so old I can't work, I don't become a financial burden to my kids. As an accidental byproduct, they will inherit millions. It's a good question. What fits your situation, your story, your age? Cody Davis, at 23, 24 years old, 10 years, he'll be in his 30s. If something blows up in his face, he can recover. I'm in my 50s. I don't want to be recovering in my 60s. I don't want to be dealing with 18% interest rates or a loan reevaluation period where the bank goes, sure, you either have to sell the property, write us a $320,000 check to bring the value of the property down to the ratio that we like, possibly in a bad year with lease renewals, and or you have to sell the property during a crash. Like, I don't want that kind of control. I would do 1,000-year fixed rate debt if I could. I don't want paid off properties. I don't want the debt paid down. It will happen. I'm not going to resist that, but I don't want that. And I don't want to add debt to an asset. A cash out refinance, in my opinion, is a mistake. If you add debt to an asset, you could write a check to lose a property because that doesn't start the depreciation schedule again. It doesn't reset the depreciation recapture. It doesn't reset the capital gains. You can have a tax obligation, hundreds of thousands of dollars more than what you could sell the property for, depending on the debt that you take out. But when you buy a property that has debt on it, you're starting a new depreciation schedule. The cost basis is based on what you purchased it for. So the refinance, the cash out, none of that makes sense to me. It could to you. Lumberjack Landlord has done tons of those things, and his portfolio is 10 plus times the size of mine. And I wouldn't trade with him, right? If he goes, if he just lost his ever loving mind and said, "Hey, let's trade portfolios," I would probably sell it down to about the size that mine is. We are all different. Jared was right. We are all different. John Williams asked to be an officiant for a wedding. Any tips? Yes. So I've done quite a few weddings. I'm a pirate minister. I think the card is actually here from the Church of the Flying Spaghetti Monster. May you be touched by his noodly goodness. Uh, find out a little bit about the couple and theme it for them. This is their day. So I don't show up with, hey, here's how the wedding goes that I'm going to do. It's what are they into? What references can I make that will trigger a memory in them that they will remember for the next 20 or 30 years? Sometimes it's a nautical theme if they're boat people. Sometimes it's a Dragonlance research for the people who both of them read the Dragonlance novels. And I'm like, oh, let's reference the Knights of Solamnia oath. Mis othos est mine solarum or something like that. Had it written down. Make a reference that is something from their life. Uh, don't be too short. One of the mistakes you can make when you first start officiating is thinking, okay, I got like 5 things to cover. That'll take you less than 60 seconds. Have not just bullet points in your head. You can have bullet points like on notes, on like a cheat card, or written on the back of your hand. Or, yeah. Uh, so, my opinion, it should go from 5 to 10 minutes. You don't want to go longer than 10 minutes because everybody's waiting for all of the stuff that's going to happen at the event. You don't want it to be shorter than 5 minutes. You can improve your speech down to just what's required and get it done in a minute or two, and that won't create a memory. You want at least 5 minutes at a minimum in something that's going to reference them. Probably go and either talk to a therapist or go to AI and look for some advice for new couples. It's nice if it's a new couple. It's a little funnier if you go, hey, this is your 7th time around, so this time's the charm, right? That would be my advice. Uh, don't get drunk until after the ceremony. If you're getting married in Washington as a Pirate Minister, I will show up. I do not charge. It's free, but I get to partake in the whole day. So you're going to be okay with full pirate regalia, starting out sober Dion there. Then we see how the rest of the day goes. Chester, there you go. Rob, is Millennial Mike remarried? Not remarried, because that's kind of permanent. Instead, they just had kids. But he's got a second kid now, which is really cool. I'm super happy. It's what he wanted. He wants more kids. So I'm really happy that he found that as an option. Calhoun, howdy. Adam, how are you? I had you on all working on rental number 4 tonight after work. It's a turnkey that needs some cleaning. It's in Gary, of course. Have a great night. Congratulations. That's awesome. Number 4. Too cool. I might actually go do something at a rental. Maybe. I'm probably just going to have a handyman do it. I try not to do things for a couple of reasons. One, I like my time freedom. Sometimes it's nice to go see your property and interact with the tenant, but I like to hire handymen for the simple jobs and then tip them so that they are more likely to answer the phone when it's a crappy job. But congratulations, Adam. Wayne Wong to Rob. No, Rob's money like nope, he's not. David, is WoW a game you touch anymore? Would think it feels like work. So yes, I don't play WoW much because, well, anytime there's a new expansion, I'll play through the level grind because I like the level advancement, playing with friends that I haven't seen in so many years. But as soon as you get to level cap and it becomes a daily grind, I'm out. I've got several other games I try. It's the point of time freedom. You can do stuff that's absolutely pointless. It brings nothing to your life except for happiness. Sometimes it's okay for life to be fun. And yeah, when it feels like work, I'm out. PvP, not so much like work. Jason, what age did you retire at? What monthly income? Thank you. Hopefully you're still here. Sorry, it takes me a while to get to the comments because I want to get to all of the questions. I didn't start investing until I was 40. I was a single parent with 3 kids. I got laid off from law enforcement because of the 2008 housing crash. I found out about $89,000 in bad debt in my name I didn't know existed until the divorce, and I started teaching at a truck driving school making $17 an hour. So that was my starting position. Not a good one. I was 40. That was 2010. I really started thinking about education and finances and everything a couple of years later, but I started saving around then in 2013. So 2011 and 12, because I had to find the job at the CDL school, I had to get on my feet, work on credit, get 2 years in the new industry. I moved from my house into an apartment and rented the house out. I bought my first duplex, my first rental I purchased in 2013. I retired in 2022. So it's been 3 years now. In 2022, so it was about 9 years of owning the duplex to when I walked away from the W-2. I could have walked away in 2018. Cash flow was enough to cover life, not enough to be comfortable. I stayed for 4 more years. A couple of reasons. One, I really loved my job. At the CDL school, I got slowly demoted down to the president of the company, was making more money towards the end. Like most of my life, I've never made more than 60,000 a year. In those last couple of years, last 2 years when I had rental income in the 6 figures, the company started paying me 6 figures because they were like, wow, he's making more off his rentals. We better keep him around. So my pay went up because I was making rental money. And then I did a study that I talk about every now and then on why people quit real estate because I didn't want to retire on real estate and then quit for the same reason everyone else did. And then I found out that reason, and that's not my problem. In 2022, I retired with 7 properties. Cash flow was a little bit above 17,000 a month, just barely. And that means the mortgages coming in, or the rent came in, the mortgages went out. I set aside money for repairs, maintenance, and vacancy. So after everything was paid and I have money that I'm setting aside for future, I had 17,000 left. Here's what it looks like today. So I've been retired three years. As of July 5th, it's been 3 years. I added a property since then. I've used my binder strategy a few times to adjust rents because we had a pandemic, an eviction moratorium in 2021. We had the threat of rent control coming in Washington, and now it's hit. So the binder strategy is how I get my tenants to ask me to raise the rent. I've actually got a free course at diontalk.com and just did a live webinar on BiggerPockets about the binder course. Cash flow today, 35,000 in rents coming in, a little bit more than that. A little over 9,000 a month in mortgages going out. So principal, interest, taxes, and insurance keeps going up, but because it was like 8,000 a little bit ago, now it's 9,000 going out every month. I set aside $5,150 a month which is basically about 15%, but it's also a cop joke because 5150 means you're holding somebody for being insane. And that leaves me with about $21,000 a month that I'm trying to figure out how to spend. Most of my life, I lived on less than 60,000 a year. So before taxes and setting aside for retirement and any of those other things that could come out, your healthcare and everything, I don't think I've often had $5,000 a month. So I live on about four, and that's eating out all the time. I drive a paid off vehicle. I house hack in a duplex. So I don't have a housing expense. I get paid to live here. Uh, so somewhere between 15, yeah, 10 to 15,000 a month is saved for the next purchase or RV or boat or trip or whatever I want to do because I'm not in growth mode anymore. Like I would never say that in growth mode. Every penny in the first 8 years, period, went to the next investment. No vacations. I drove a 19 and a 17. I had a Jeep Cherokee and a Jeep Wrangler. They were almost 20 years old when I was driving them. I'd have more than one vehicle. So one of them ran well enough to get me to work. I didn't eat out hardly ever. If I went out with the kids, I had an appetizer like here's how I knew I was rich. This is well, not rich, wealthy. This is when I knew money became just a thing. For most of my life, having three kids, not having good paying jobs, right? I wasn't a police officer in like a big city. I was in a little tiny town where we made a little bit more than minimum wage. Like my peak after 8 years, I was at 21 bucks an hour as a cop, right? So I wasn't making a lot of money. Um, the first time I went to a restaurant, and it's not even, I could look at the menu and just have what I wanted. Like that's super wealthy. That's where I'm at now. But this was like probably around 2020. I had the cash flow to where I didn't have to work, but I was still working. So I had the two real incomes. But the first time I went to a restaurant and got a soda, like that was such a life-changing event for me because I always had the three kids and just my income. I didn't get child support. I didn't make a lot of money. I had to have the job that was close enough to commute that I could adjust with kids. Like, as a truck driver, I couldn't have like a too long a shifts. I had to be able to go home and be in a local route. So I wasn't making a lot of money. Uh, so if we ever went out, it was an appetizer and water. If I did that, sometimes it would just be like, "Oh, I'll just order the bread, whatever. Because I got food at home. It's a little cheaper, right? Not much, but little. And so now when I go to restaurants, I don't even look at the prices. I don't like to go to super expensive places. Like I'll go to El Gaucho's like once or twice a year, but most of my meals I like to be less than 50 bucks a person. But I'll actually get a drink with my meal. Like that was a weird change for me. Ridiculously stupid small thing, but something I couldn't do until I reached financial freedom. So I retired at 52. Started thinking about money in 2010, really started saving in 2011, took 2 years to find that first duplex in 2013, and then a decade to retire at 52. Everyone says they wish they could have started sooner. I don't think anybody is exempt from that. Wayne, just came across my mind. Lumberjack was the last to retire. He's the last to write a book now. He doesn't even read books. Will he write a book? I don't know. He hasn't talked about it. I kind of think Millennial Mike won't do a course and Lumberjack Landlord won't do a book. But that doesn't mean that they're not successful. They're doing other things. Uh, maybe. Who knows? I never would have thought I was going to write. If I was going to write a book, it would absolutely not be about real estate. The book I want to write is I'm a gamer. I'm a D&D player, like from the bazillion years ago. And there's these types of book out there called lit RPG where people get trapped in VR games. That's not the one I would make. I would make a D&D style book and would have nothing to do with real. So if I was ever going to write a book, the one I wrote is not the one I would do. The one I wrote is Financial Freedom for the Lazy Person, and it reads like an instruction manual. I literally have an index of when you're at this point in instructing and you're screening tenants or you're analyzing deals or you're choosing a market or you're choosing a strategy, there's a section for it. So my goal is people would read through it once, but then earmark or paperclip the parts that they would return to when they're doing that specific thing in investing. Not the book I thought I would write. I'm an avid reader. Like I should share, I don't know if I could share my thing. I've got almost 700 titles in my Audible account, and I've probably listened to 70 or 80% of them. So I've got a couple hundred books to still go through, but I'm always listening to some Audible book. And it's not always finances. I'll rotate. Um, I'm not a Stephen King fan. I hate his writing. I hate his politics even more. But right now I'm listening to one of his books because he's got a series coming out and one of my kids are going to watch it and I want to be able to have conversations. Every time I've ever listened to or read a Stephen King book, it's because I want to talk to people who are fans of his. And then it'll probably be on not quite self-help, but something in that realm, and then finances, and then I'll rotate to a Dean Koontz or a space opera book or something. But I don't listen to music. I listen to Audible books. So Rob, so Mike added a new list, kids. There's reasons to get no sleep, but also Mike added a new kid to his list of reasons to reach financial freedom, to retire early, to probably create generational wealth. He might have a different goal than I do. Joseph, I paused buying because the numbers stopped working and I keep trying to purchase, but find the mortgage taxes and insurance are too high, maybe 1,800 where I can rent, about 2,000 suggestion. So my market kind of went that way too. And so Joseph, for a while, and you might have heard this because I see you remember, for a while, I was the uh, speed guy. I wanted to get an offer in fast. I wanted to get on the seller's radar before they got a whole bunch of offers. And then I would get outbid and I would tell the seller, hey, just in case that deal falls through, congratulations on the better offer. Happy for you. If it falls through, my offer still stands. I got half my portfolio that way. Then 2020, 21 happened and there was a shift. I don't know if it was YouTube University became a thing and more people became investors. Remote work changed the dynamics. What I did is I expanded my market out to where the remote workers were moving to because they've pushed up rents. So go a little bit further out than where you have been looking. Rents might have pushed up, but you have to be tracking it today. Rentometer isn't going to show it. It's not historical data, it's current data. There is more demand because of remote work further out from the cities. So if you're investing in a city, rents could be going down. If you're further out from the city, rents could be going up, but prices aren't pushing up as fast. They're still up. Like there's some markets where prices are down, but there's some markets where they're up and there's some where they're flat. So further out, and then instead of being fast, I started watching days on market. I won't even really look at a property until it's been listed for at least 3 times what is normal for your market. So you have to know what normal for your market is. Talk to agents, say, what's the average days on days on the MLS here? Look for set up a search for 3 times that. Then some agent told me in our Pacific Northwest, right? Because I'm in Western Washington, but in Pacific Northwest, uh, most brokerages list for 90 days. If it's on after 90 days, that means they've relisted it. So I changed my search to 90 plus days. And then I found a deal in 2021 and a deal in 2023. And I'm probably going to get a deal later this year. I'm not in a hurry to, but I'm probably going to because the money's piling up and I don't want it to lose value to inflation. I got a text from Lenny Mike. I'm making my way through your book because I sent him a copy, just like Zuber did. Great so far. I'm on chapter 3. Sorry, I'm not faster, but I'm loving it. Your story is great. Cool. Awesome. Nice. Hopefully that's the experience other people have when they go out. So it's done, but it's off to editing. So there will be actually a couple of sections were added since I sent it to him. So and he texted me on a Tuesday, which means he doesn't know that I'm doing this, which is great. Where did my chat go? Uh, the chat disappeared. Okay, there it is. I need a 10-year-old to help me with the tech. This is not a YouTube channel on how to have a YouTube channel. There you go. So that was my advice. Expand your market out a little bit more to where the remote workers might be and watch days on market instead of being fast. And then I set a timer. And mentally, I said, look, if I don't find what I'm looking for in a year, I might change markets. If I was going to change markets, what matters to me most is trusted boots on the ground. And for me, that would be Millennial Mike. He's investing in Gary, Indiana. He's got the systems in place. He doesn't live there, but he's what do you call it, established in the market there. I would just jump on his coattails and invest out of state in his market. That was my plan. Ended up being about 3 months, and I found 2 deals, went under contract, looked at both of them, and chose. I'll never know if I chose the right one or not, but I chose one to close on and let the other one go. And it came from expanding my market, watching days on market. Laura, howdy. Good to see you here. Hope Florida is doing well in your market. John, hi, Dion. Thanks for all you do to educate us. Thank you. I'm very happy to be here. Let me know if you want to know if there's somebody new to my channel that wants to know why I have a channel, because it is for very selfish reasons. Brian, thanks for answering on cost seg. I heard that short-term rentals are considered active, self-managing, and so can offset W2. I don't really want short-term rental, but the tax savings seems appealing. It could be. Yeah. So the short term, midterm versus long term, I call this the real estate X factor. So think of a two version XY axis. The more work you're willing to do, the more money you could potentially make. The more risk you're willing to take, the more money you could potentially make. And the two times I use the same word that are the most key is potentially. So if you self-manage short-term rentals, you stand to make the most money, potentially. Uh, if you have a property manager with short-term, you make a little bit less. If you go to midterm, you make a little bit less. If you go to long-term, so I'm on the lowest end of the work, almost. I self-manage 18 rental units, live in one. So I'm 17 and rent it out. Some people think a property manager might make it less work. I think it would make it more. It takes me about 2 hours a month to manage 17 tenants, 17 sets of tenants, right? Uh, it would take me more than 2 hours a month to verify everything the property manager was doing was right and they would make as much money as I am or more. That's not cool. So I'll take the money as long as I can keep the time down. If it was more time consuming, like those first 2, 3 years of being a landlord when I didn't have any systems in place, I didn't have anything automated. I didn't have these are the three words that you can use to communicate with me with a phone call. The rest has to be text or email, laws with my students or tenants. If it took as much work as it did in the first few years, I would have a property manager. Once I got smart and started learning things like treat your properties like you have 100 and your tenants like you have one. So a happy tenant means less turnover. Less turnover is a lot less work. Not as good at rent increases, but it's a lot less work. 100 properties, I'm not the one going to go out and switch lights or swap out an electrical plug or fix a fence. Not on 100. That's too much work. So even if you only have one, how would you do it if you had 100? Well, less work. Hire somebody to do it. Once I learned those things, that's how I got it down to about 2 hours a month. Most months, I want to say about 10 months, this in those last 12 months, 10 of those months, it was less than 30 minutes. Rent verification, email a lease to renew. That's it. Then 1 or 2 months to be tenant turnover, and that takes 4, maybe 6 hours, right? So you average those out through the year, and it's about 2 hours a month. I'll take that. How much would it cost me? It would cost me, I have to do the math. Just do a whiteboard. This is how much it would cost me to have a property manager. $35,000 a month in rents coming in. They get it from gross, not after principal, interest, taxes, and insurance, or setting aside for repairs, maintenance, and vacancy. And say if I have 18, I could probably negotiate a 7% monthly from them. So 7% of 35,000, and then an upcharge on every handyman call and an upcharge on materials. So it would be a significant amount of money going out the door that goes in my pocket instead for 2 hours a month. And it wouldn't remove the 2 hours if I had a property manager because it would take me more than that to manage them. But thank you. That's good. Yeah, the don't let the tax tail wag the dog. If a short-term rental takes more work, makes more money, but you can save more taxes. If the taxes are the reason, I wouldn't do the strategy. If it's the more money from short-term rentals, if it's that short-term rentals sometimes take less work than mid-term rentals, Tony Sagastanacho, Major Sags. I always forget his because it's how hey, your parents spelled it your way, but um, he's talked about how midterm rentals are more work than short-term rentals because a short-term rental they sign up through the website. You can see the ratings and everything. And they book out days. But a midterm rental, you're still looking at credit scores. You're still looking at eviction history. You're still finding the tenants. So it's kind of backwards intuitively. Uh, Choose the strategy that works for you and then take the tax benefits. Don't let the tax benefits determine the strategy that you use. Modo, thank you. Thanks for hanging out with us too. Brian, what would you do in the future if enough time passes and all of your properties get paid off? Like my brother, I would have paid off properties. He has 10 paid off properties. He's not done any cash out refinances. He's never sold a property, although he did lose a bunch in a divorce. We're not bitter. Uh, he didn't lose anything. His spouse got her share. So I get it. What would I do if they're all paid off in the future? I'd probably start paying taxes, but be totally fine with it. I'd be making such a metric, and this is a very technical term, metric F ton of money that the government would get some. Totally fine with that. I'm not going to add debt to his existing assets. Uh, the ABC always be closing, maybe buy new properties to start new depreciation schedules with new debt on new properties. Um, yeah. So my exit strategy, I think that's in the book. Yeah, the exit strategy is the very last thing in the book because it's the ending, the exit strategy. Uh, I'm in my 50s now. I've got properties with debt. When I get to close to 70, my kids currently have no interest in real estate, so I'm not going to leave them real estate. They would be better off everything going to probate, government taking their share. They get just the cash that's left. Stepped up basis will make the depreciation recapture and the capital gains go away. So best outcome for them. If I put in a trust and gave it to them, they would run it bad. They would fall on their face, file bankruptcy, and lose everything. So I'd rather they inherit millions and than inherit property. So my current plan is specifically with somebody like Millennial Mike. He's about 20 years younger than me, still in growth mode. So when I was 50, he was 30-ish. So I'll be 70 when he's 50. My properties will still have debt because I didn't do cash out refinances. I did refinances in 2020 to lower rates, right? So in 2070, I'll still have 10 years of mortgage payments left on most of them, but they'll be so paid off and so appreciated in value. I'll probably at 70 sell one, take the gain, pay the taxes, pay the depreciation recapture, take what's left, pay off all the debt. That's probably how small the debt will be. One property will tackle all of that. So then I will have, if I didn't add any more, so let's say I have 8 properties now, at 70, I pay one off. I I sell one, pay off seven. I take those seven paid off properties and I seller finance them to somebody like Mike, if he is interested when he's 50, with a 30-year note separate on each property so he can buy and sell and each note can be done. I can sell a note if I want to get the money all at once, but I would avoid a big capital gains hit. I would have cash flow without tenants, toilets, and termites when I'm 70 and don't want to deal with them anymore. So eventually, if they're paid off, also factoring in my age, there's an exit strategy there. None of my exit strategy involved adding debt to those assets. I'm not the guy who wants a bigger portfolio. I will get a bigger portfolio because the money keeps piling up. I'm the person who wants time freedom. That's a great question. Angry capitalist. I think I saw a super chat from BuzzTune. Howdy, Mikey. Making sure I'm not on BuzzTune. In the first 5 years, super chats get first. I should have went to it sooner. Sorry for that. Got Calhoun's, good. BuzzTune. And then your comment here. In the first 5 years, how much revisions did you have for your systems processes when you were system process dialed in? The first 2 or 3 years, I was a monkey with brain damage. Everything was done wrong. It seemed like in the first year, I was trying to make a list of all the mistakes you can make, and I want to check all the boxes. No lease, rent to a friend, don't act when rent is late, don't maintain property. Like, think of something wrong other than getting married again. I made all of those mistakes. It's not because marriage is bad, it's because my people picker's broken. I, uh, around year 3, so after closing on the duplex, is when because I was always an Audible book guy, like a truck driver, right? So, not that a cop would ever listen to audiobooks when they're on duty, but as a truck driver, I would clock 5 to 8 hours a day in Audible books before they were streaming. So this is like, 2000 to 2010, no, early 2000s. Uh, they knew me at the library. Before it was streaming, you can go in and check out Audible books for free. You still can. Now you can buy them streaming and own them. Uh, I would get a stack. In about 2013 and 14, I switched from entertainment books to educational stuff. Reading BiggerPockets, found Michael Zuber writing articles on BiggerPockets way before he had the book one rental at a time, way before he retired. Like he had rentals and he had knowledge and he was sharing it. Uh, from 2013 to 2015, everything changed. Everything shifted to, I don't have to reinvent the wheel. Somebody's done this before. How did they do it? Even the binder strategy, well, I came up with the name and I made the free course and I've been on BiggerPockets talking about it. There are guys like Matt, the lumberjack landlord, who've been doing a version of that for like 20 years. Text or email the tenants, here's what's going on with rents in the area. Here's your increase. Educate them before doing it. I do a little different. It's share the information, include them in the conversation, ask them what they think is fair. Like, but a version of it was been done forever. You don't have to invent anything. You don't have to come up with something new. This is like the longest, it's not the oldest profession. It's not the second oldest. It's like the third or fourth oldest profession is owning an asset that somebody else needs that you can rent to them or lease to them. Thousands of years. Why do people think they have to come up with the new way of doing everything? Finding in the simplest way with the most likelihood of success, sure, filtering through the noise. But yeah, it was about 3 to 5 years, 3 to 4 years in before I really educated myself. And then from 2015 to 2020, it became less and less and less time to deal with existing tenants to where I was able to add more properties while working, while raising three kids without feeling like a new rental would mean more work. Real estate is life consuming in growth mode. Learning the skills, finding the deals, negotiating, making offers. That is, it's just every second you're not working or dealing with your family, you spent growing real estate. At financial freedom, when growth mode is over and it's stabilized and your major work is done, and even if you do something major like, oh, I'm going to do the roof, that's a couple of emails to get quotes and a couple of conversations with a couple of contractors. Like it's minutes worth of work to do a major repair that the tenants pay for with the money that you set aside for repairs, maintenance, and vacancy. That's when, so ownership is close to passive. It's not iron lung passive. You can't lay in a bed and never think. Like it's going to take a couple hours a month, even with a small portfolio. It is not passive to grow it. I wish somebody had told me that in the beginning because it was so life consuming in growth phase that I was thinking, why would anybody do this? It takes every minute of your life to grow, not to own. You flip a switch one day. I thought my brother was absolutely nuts. He was running a tree service, family of arborists, right? I joined the Marines because that work was easier. And he buys properties that were basically falling down mobile homes on acreage. And then he's got these craftsman skills. He goes in, he understood mobile homes. He can fix them up. He can add rooms. He can do all these things, turn them into beautiful rentals, tons of cash flow, low price to get in, paid off properties, used a HELOC, recycled it and paid off by another, right? Got to 10, paid off. Uh, Running a business and doing all the work on your rentals, he was working, I want to say close to 20 hours a day some days. That's crazy. I thought he was an idiot. And then he turned 50. Several years ago, he turned 50. He retired the business. So he didn't even sell it. He just parked all the equipment in his field and it became big rust heaps. And he hasn't bought a rental for several years. And he hasn't had to do he did do a few roofs, but I finally got him to hire somebody to do that. So at 50, he flipped the switch and he was like, I don't own a business anymore that I'm running. And I have 10 paid off, functioning, rented out rentals. And he's just been for a decade now, like traveling, scuba diving, getting to meet people in some interesting places, having an amazing life. But from like up to 50, even being as close to him as I was, I thought what he was doing was nuts. I didn't see the end goal. He did. And then there's the super chat from Amy, Angry Capitalist. Thank you for that. It is much appreciated. Lets YouTube know that somebody might like the content. My uncle started investing in a 15 to 20-minute area. I'm expanding to a 40-minute area, any property being 40 minutes or less from all others. That's pretty much, I was 45 minutes was my investing area because I wanted the diversification of being close to several different economic drivers, right? Some by the base, the port, the capital, where Boeing is, where the Amazon terminals are, and I'm all spread out. 45 minutes was fine. In Washington, 45 minutes is a couple blocks, basically. Uh, Now it's an hour, might be an hour and 10 or 20 minutes between one of my properties and the other, my furthest one out. Yeah, making sure upgrades and improving the property and depreciating it. Make sure I don't miss a question from Angry Capitalist. Wanted to make a D&D manual for financial literacy basis set in the fantasy setting. Absolutely. Like if you can gamify the education process, maybe not the investing process, I love it. Yeah, there are gamers out there. And then was that there's another super chat from Brandon. Howdy. Fortified General Contracting. What are you drinking? That is a good question. I wish it was something better. It's a it's a what is it called? It's a seasonal thing. I got it for Christmas. Apple cider vinegar, apple cider something. If I had the bottle in here, I would show you. But it's an apple cider seasonal whiskey. And I'm not a whiskey guy. I am a vodka and Mountain Dew guy. And every now and then, water. Once in a while. Thanks, Brandon. You can't drink all day unless you start early. I paused buying, looking for where I was at here. Thanks for I do. California Wine Guide. I'm also not a wine guy, although there is a winery very close to where I'm named after one of my kids who has a unique name that I've never seen anywhere else other than in the book where I got the name from. If you had a property paid off, would you do a cash out refinance to purchase more property? I own two paid off properties out of eight. One I paid off as a mistake around 2018 when you were allowed to have four mortgages in your name, and I had four. Figured I'd pay one off, add another. Didn't understand you could house hack and have more than four, or you could do DSCR loans, or seller financing, or asset based, or portfolio loans, or like all these options that are out there. Because I wasn't as educated as I got to today, and I'm half educated as I'm going to be in 2 years because I'm continuing to learn. Uh, in 2021, I had a portfolio review before retiring by the lumberjack landlord and Michael Zuber from One Rental at a Time, where I shared all my numbers, all the properties, all the rents, all the debt, everything. And they said, hey, you got this paid off property. You should add because in 2021, interest rates were about 4%, right? They were lower in 2020, but in 2021, they said, do a 50% loan to value, put the money to the side, use it for the next deal. I didn't. They are a growth mindset, and I was the right amount of cash flow from the least amount of units mindset. So even with their advice to successful people, I was looking for mistakes I was making, and I didn't take the advice that could just improve things. So they said I should, I still haven't. And then I purchased another one all cash, my first and last burr that I self-funded the purchase and the repairs. And I might do a mortgage on it. I just don't like it. I'd rather use my VA loan finally and go buy something 100% levered to start a new depreciation schedule, to have more levered appreciation, right? Taking debt out on a property doesn't increase my appreciation on that property, lowers the return on my appreciation. I don't want to reduce the cash flow. So my money's stacking up. With paid off properties, I would not add debt. I would not sell it to 1031. That doesn't mean it's the wrong thing. So the first thing is, so there's like a logic chain you go down. One, how would you access the debt? If it's paid off, cash out refinance kind of makes the most sense because you're not impacting debt that's on it. Like if you had one worth $1 million and you owed 500,000 and it was at 3% interest, do you want to take out equity and take out all of it and turn your 3% interest into 7% interest now? So no. A second mortgage might make more sense in that case. A home equity line of credit, can your debt to income ratio handle it? Because if you open up a HELOC for $100,000, basically the lender say 1% of that value is like it hits your debt to income ratio. So it's like you have another $1,000 a month payment, even if you don't take the money out because you could. If you take out a home equity line of credit, are you confident in your ability to pay it off before the rate adjusts? And yeah, if it's a 10-year fixed, can you pay it off in 10 years? I wasn't making a lot of money. I didn't have the spiky income that my brother did with his tree service. Uh, I just had consistent low income with a side hustle. So I wouldn't do the HELOC. How will you tap the equity? Is your first question. The second thing is, yes, one of the problems we had in 2007, 2008 was people tapped equity to buy an RV, to take a vacation. They had all this free money in their house, and house prices never go down. So that was dumb, right? But if you're buying another asset with it, will that asset cash flow enough to justify the loss of cash flow on the property that you're adding the debt to? Because I'm glad you didn't use the word. My one of my least favorite words in the top five is equity. Not because of DEI. It's equity because you don't have equity in a property. What you have is the ability to add debt to an existing asset. I wish there was another word that said that wasn't equity. I have to get out the thesaurus and figure that one out or ask AI. But a new word that means you can lower the cash flow on a property by having money to deploy. Would deploying it justify the loss of cash flow? Because what you're talking about is called recycling capital. As the capital grows, your appreciation happens, your principal pay down happens, that gap gets bigger. That's capital. You take it and you recycle it to buy something else. It's a great strategy. A lot of people do it. It's not my thing. I chose recycle cash flow. It's slower. It's less sexy. It's much more stable. It's much less work. And it got me financial freedom in 10 years instead of 20. The hockey stick portion of recycling cash flow happens at about the 50% point as recycling capital does. So if you recycle capital, you have a bigger portfolio at 20 years and more cash flow at 20 years, but not as much at 10 years. So I don't care about 20 years. I don't need 10x what I have now. I want my kids will inherit a couple million. That's fine. I don't need more than that. So saved for 2 years, bought a duplex. Saved for 2 years, bought a duplex. Saved for a year and a half, bought a duplex. Screwed up and paid off a property. Saved for a year, bought a fourplex. Emptied out my retirement accounts, bought a triplex. Saved for, oh, that was a quick time, 6 months and bought a duplex. Saved for 2 years and bought a duplex. So like there's big gaps between purchases without touching the equity. It's a 10-year journey. Can you do it faster? Can you do it sooner? Yes, but it's more work. It's more risk. Not my strategy. Not that it's wrong, just not my strategy. Thank you, California Wine Guide. Brian, thanks for answering on cost seg. Yep. Thank you. What would you do with the future if enough time passes? And there we go. What do you think your next real estate purchase will be, and what market do you prefer today? Alex, thank you for the question. I'm probably going to buy in Thurston or Mason counties in Washington state, so Western Washington, closer to my other properties than the one that I have in Kitsap. It's probably going to be a house hack, either a fourplex or a acreage house with an ADU. We'll see what I find because I've wanted a fourplex for 4 years now. I've said it in 100 plus videos. I want a fourplex that costs more than $1 million. I'm probably going to use my VA loan to be 100% levered. I'm looking for it. Nope, I found a duplex that was a good deal. I bought it. I found a duplex that was a good deal. I bought it. Like, I'm not dumb. I'm not going to pass a good or great deal when I run into them, even if I have a different goal. So that's what's going to happen in the next less than a year. We'll see. Yeah. Uh, oh, Yinka, howdy. Good to see you. Oh, so course call, seeing you here. Thursday. Hopefully you guys already got the email today. The course call is going out Thursday, 6 p.m. Christian Osgood of Multifamily Strategies will be there. Bring your questions. California Wine Guide. What are your thoughts on investing in appreciation markets that do not cash flow like Orange County, California? I invest for cash flow. Appreciation is an accidental byproduct. If I lived in Orange County, I would invest at a distance. Like Michael Zuber from One Rental at a Time now lives in Vegas, lived near Silicon Valley because he worked in that industry. And he went 2.5 hours away and invested in Fresno. I have friends that invest in Kern County. My brother David owns rentals in Rosamond, Kern County. Price to rent ratio is great. Landlord regulations outside of LA County, better. Orange County, I don't know the politics, so I won't even speak to it. But when you're talking about cash flow is bad, but appreciation could be a thing, what asset are you looking at? Right. When I first started, I was thinking, oh, I understand single family houses. I lived in one as I moved into an apartment and rented out the house. If I could buy another house, I can just rinse and repeat that. Been investing now for over a decade, and I have not seen one single family house that would cash flow in this state. Not in the markets where I'm at. Maybe there's other markets, Walla Walla or somewhere where the price to rent ratios make sense. I have no idea. But in my market, single family don't. So I went to small multifamily. I've bought a single family, but it was a house with an ADU. It's I call it my triplex because it's a duplex and a house on one property. It's a huge house. Like, well, to me, it's huge. It's like 2,500 square feet and then 2 bedroom each side duplex, all on one property. But I only found it because I had a single family search going because it was a house with an ADU. So how far away from where you go would you find the price to rent ratio make sense? Kern County is not too far from Orange County. That's like so many people say, well, I live in California. We can't invest here. No, California is like six other states put together. You can find little directions to get into an area where it does make sense. And then I would go, what asset class are you looking at? I don't know if it's single family or small multifamily or house with an ADU that makes the most sense in your market. I know that in different markets, each one has different strengths. I have a friend here in Washington. She sold and tried to do a reverse 1031, messed up her timeline, and purchased in Ohio. In Ohio, her single family houses made the most sense, even with property management. So, what works, what asset class in your market, and how can you expand your market to get away from where price and rents don't make sense? And then the last thing I'll add to hopefully help you with this California wine guide, the more expensive the market you live in, the more impactful house hacking can be. That doesn't mean roommates, but if you bought a duplex, a triplex, or a fourplex, lived in one unit, rented out the other, or you bought a house with an EDU, so two houses on one property, rent out the other, you can have a bigger impact on your finances than if you live in Gary, Indiana, and you can save $800 a month on your rent or your mortgage instead of $3,000 a month on your mortgage in a more expensive area. So I specifically targeted a high cost of living area. I wish my properties cost more. Everybody's like, oh, I hope there's a crash. No, I want expensive properties because I want levered appreciation, levered depreciation, higher rents, more demand. I like the blue areas instead of the red areas, even though almost all of my political beliefs, except for two, lean to the right. I want to invest where the things are the blue because rent control makes landlords richer. More regulations means less investors and less competition. The appreciation happens because people can't build as much. So, yeah, I'm investing, and the appreciation has made me multiple millions of dollars, but the cash flow is also good because of those same reasons. Yeah, I have to keep bigger reserves because an eviction might take longer. And the permit process everywhere I invest sucks, but financial freedom and time freedom happened because of more cost of living meant less properties for more cash flow. One of the things that Millennial Mike and I like to debate, and I want to do the Socratic method of debate one time where I explain his method and he explains mine, because we've presented together. I don't know, I want to say not quite 100 times, but dozens of times where we present together. And he's the out-of-state guy. I'm the in-state expensive market guy. It takes, I want to say 5 properties of his investing strategy to get the cash flow of one of mine. But he had 5 transactions, and that's what matters to him. It's in his name, Millennial Mike. He's got that. I want things to happen faster. And I'm like, yeah, if I could do something, one thing every 2 years, just one thing every 2 years, in 10 years, I'd never have to work again. That was plenty for me. BuzzTube, Mikey, and I got that one from your super chat, Angry Capitalist. I started at 26 and wished I started earlier. And I've talked about this before, Angry Capitalist. I interviewed Cody Davis when he was 20, so he couldn't buy beer yet, and he had 30 rentals. He said in that interview, which is still on my YouTube channel, I wish I started sooner. I always kind of adjust the question when somebody asks me, if I could go back and change anything, what would I change? And I would never take the risk. The end result of retiring at 52 with over 20,000 a month in cash flow when I live on less than five, and the time freedom that comes with it, the energy of being young enough to enjoy this, uh, I wouldn't risk anything. I wouldn't go back and change that. Butterfly effect could give me a bad outcome. So I wouldn't change anything. What I do say is if I lost everything and started today, here's what I would do. Like that's how I answer that question instead of go back and change anything. So would I wish I started sooner? Maybe I wasn't ready. Maybe I would have ended up like my brother, get a bunch of rentals right around the time of that next divorce. Aldair, howdy. Members only call is going to be this weekend coming up, Saturday or Sunday. I'll probably take a poll. What's better, Saturday or Sunday for everybody? And guys, I wanted to make a D&D manual. Yep. Can't wait for my book. I'm excited to get it out. Um, I've been talking about it for a while. I don't know if you know this or not, Alex, but I'm super lazy. And lazy means busy. This is the stupidest thing about being retired early. I've I've had one day in 3 years where I felt retired, where I literally did nothing and I felt I walked on the water and did nothing. Uh, there is so much to do, so many things to go and do that That's the challenge of time freedom is you actually have the time freedom and the energy to do things. Freedom work started at 10, wish you started earlier. I started working at 8. I don't know if I wish that I did that even. I got beat up a lot. I was the little white kid working in the onion fields and down by Tehachapi, California. And I was not welcome there. No, not until you get beat up enough, then you become one of the group. Uh, Apparently, learning to yell migra when you're 8 is not the way to make friends. Fati, howdy. DSCR loans are the eighth wonder of the world from Freedom Works. Nice. Yep, I've looked into them. I almost did it because you could do more than 4 units with fixed rate debt with them too. So that is a definite bonus. Fati, I'm just off work and starting the show from the beginning, but wanted to say howdy. Howdy. See you here in an hour when you get here. Freedom Works. Only thing better than DSCR loan is a DSCR loan that is interest only. Depending on your strategy. Sure. Curtis on PE turned RE. Are you seeing deals in our now expanded markets that cash flow with 5% down? I haven't looked at them because remember, so I don't look at them as though I did 5% down. I look at them as though I would do 20 or 25% down, depending on what lenders are requiring, and as though all units were rented out. So if you're doing a 5% down, you're doing an owner house hack, owner occupied house hack. Look at them as if you were doing 20 or 25% down because I'm not trying to figure out how much I'm going to make. I'm trying to figure out if I'm looking at 5 or 10 rental properties, which one of them is the one that I should pursue if I was buying it as a rental. Then the house hack means a better interest rate, a lower down payment, probably less cash flow, and definitely less cash flow while you're owner occupying it. So I haven't looked with 5% down, and our next members only is coming up this next Saturday or Sunday. So if you wanted to do that, we could look at a deal in our market. I tend to like to look at other markets because I'll probably buy one if we look in our market, and I don't want to buy one right now. But maybe we could find a deal to look at for you and see how it look at as a house hack, but run the numbers the way I run the numbers on a house hack, which is actually a section in the book. It's not only how I run the numbers on a rental, the next section in that same chapter is how I run the numbers on a house hack. The two things I do different. Astrad. Hi, Dion. What are the best sources to use when researching new market, and how can I practically apply that info when analyzing deals? So my first thing is, why are you studying a new market? And if it is a new market, here's a couple things that you need to know. Is your trusted boots on the ground? It can be you live there, you just moved there, or you used to live there. So you know the kind of good and bad areas to avoid, and you know some of the local things. Like if you invest in Yelm, Washington, do you want to live next to the Jay-Z Knight compound where Ramtha School of Enlightenment has a bunch of crazy people who are really nice, but really crazy, get released after 4 days of fasting and only drinking wine, announced on their local Facebook group? Like, do you want to live next to that? You need to know your local market well enough to know stupid stuff like that. And if it would impact your investing. If it's at a distance and you're not the boots on the ground, who is your boots on the ground? For me, it was going to be Millennial Mike and Gary, Indiana, because he's got the systems in place. Somebody that you trust. And I believe that if I died in the next couple of years, Mike would probably come to my funeral, which they shouldn't have. If I pass away, I want my remains spread in the local lakes and rivers. And I definitely don't want to be cremated. But Mike will probably come to my funeral. That's the level of trust that I want. And he's in the industry. So do you know an agent, a contractor, an investor that's in that market? So that's the first thing is somebody, I don't care if a market's good or bad. I will invest in a bad market. There are people who say they would never invest in Washington because it's a bad market. Sure. But somebody's investing here successfully. Single family houses don't make sense. So I went to small multifamily. House hacking had a huge impact, right? So the market to me doesn't matter. I own a rental in McKenna, Washington. When I invested there, the population has gone down over 20%. And I had a tenant turnover there. When was it? Early 2024, with a ton of demand. So people are always worried about, oh, go to the U-Haul website and see where the trucks are going and look at the population migration. No. Are there enough economic drivers to create demand for your rentals? Yes, McKenna, Washington is this big. I don't even think it gets a dot on the map, but you're less than a mile away from a Walmart. You're the closest municipality, if it is considered a municipality at that small. It's like it was 600 and something when I bought. It's 400 and something people live there now. They're one of the closest municipalities to the Eastgate access to Joint Base Lewis McChord. So like there's a couple of other things to look at than population. Then, so are there enough economic drivers? If you're looking at a the properties there, some people will look at Redfin, Realtor, Zillow to like take a cursory glance. Sure, no, I want MLS searches set up by agents that have access to the actual MLS. Zillow's information is not updated. That's not accurate. The deals that I've closed on showed up on Zillow a couple of months after I closed, and they showed up as pending. So the only way you would have seen them is if somebody already bought them and already closed. So it's MLS data with auto searches from agents. And then if you're learning the market, you want to learn the areas to avoid. And there's two ways to look at the safety element. And I would never go to a website like Crime Stop or the county's reported sex offender registration or any of that kind of stuff because that data's cooked. Worked in law enforcement for 8 years, and I've been in the meetings where they go, the mayor wants to get reelected based on crime going down. So every felony that we charge now, find a misdemeanor charge. Don't pursue most things, give warnings. And then you have other times where they go, we're looking for the chief wants funding for more materials, so we need to look like crime is on the rise. So make sure you write up every report like you found every felony that's happening. It's all cooked data. So I don't do that. What I do is two things. To find out the safety level of a market, you call law enforcement, you look for the non-emergency number, so you don't call 911. You don't waste their time on something stupid like you wanting to better your life. That's not what they're there for. But you call the non-emergency number and just say, hey, I would like a call from an officer when they have 5 minutes to answer some questions. You might get a call. You might have a police department that's a bunch of jerks and they won't do it. But 9 times out of 10, they'll call because they don't know what you're calling about. And you just say, I'm looking at buying properties in this market. Can you tell me the area? Like you're going to live there because cops don't like renters because tenants are where all of your problems come from. They like homeowners who have something to lose. I'm looking at buying and living in this market. Where do the cops have to go in teams? Where do you have to, let Central know if you're going to an area? Like you can do patrol all day. You don't tell Central where you're at unless you're going to do an FI or pull somebody over or something. But if you're going to go in Tumwater, Washington to 301 T Street, anywhere near it, you let somebody know because you're not supposed to go there alone. If you go to McKenna Avenue or 3 blocks from the McKenna Avenue in Tacoma, you don't go there alone. The cops will know those areas. They'll tell you in your market the areas to avoid. Then you flip the script and you call property managers in the area. And now this is the part where you want to seem like an investor, not a homeowner, because property managers don't benefit from homeowners. They benefit from investors they might have business from in the future. And you say, I'm looking at buying in this market. Can you tell me the areas you would not manage in? Or if I'm looking at a specific property, this is the address I'm looking at. If I had tenants there, would you be a property manager for this area? And you'll get property managers that say, we can't send handyman there, or this area is totally safe. Or you'll get cops that say where the safer areas are. So you can research a market. And then your strongest resource, and I get this from Millennial Mike, he's actually said this in some of the presentations he's done, is when he was investing in Gary, Indiana, at a distance, his biggest resource is other investors in that market. Get into the local Facebook groups, find the meetups, even if it's online and if you're at a distance. Get to know people, ask questions, ask them about their story and how they invest and what they invest in. And they'll tell you something about that market you couldn't find anywhere else. They'll have sometimes possible leads on handyman because those are hard to find and hard to keep because of the way their life either explodes or implodes. They either become so good they become a contractor or their life falls apart and they run away with your money. If I had a quarter for every time that happened, I would still be losing money. So that's what I would do looking at a market. It doesn't have to be a good market or a bad market. It's how to invest the right way in that market because somebody is investing successfully in every market and a lot of people are not. Good question. Thank you. California. Would you recommend a refi on, okay, that one. Would you recommend a refi on a paid off rental if I am trying to grow? I was in growth mode and never did it. And then my chat moved and I lost where I was at. Here we go. Upgrade. Z. Shudrowitz. Did I even come close? I've almost finished cleaning up my one house for market. Previously, it rented for 2,400. Now area average is 2,300 with some rent ringers at 2,100. Would you go down to stay competitive even cash flow lower. So area average rents set rents. If your area average rents go down, so do yours. Market wide, that's never happened market wide, but there are some markets that it's crashed significantly. So it absolutely can go down in your market. What is going on with area average rents? I tend to be not at area average rents or not above area average rents because what you get is worse tenants. The people who do no research, that don't learn what the area average rent is and just go on and shotgun apply everywhere and hope somebody lets them in are the people who make the poorest financial decisions. So I want to be just below or a little bit below area average rents to get a better, you're still going to get the crappy tenants because they're applying everywhere, right? They just didn't look at this or the other one as better or worse than the other. More screening to get better tenants happens if you're just below or a little bit below area average rent. So whatever's going on with your rents, that's what's going to set your rents. So yeah, if they went down, I would go down. Have they gone down in my market ever? They're flat right now in half of my portfolio. The other half has gone up. So I'm 50-50. Ivan, howdy. Mr. Dion, did your son get a job with his information systems degree? He got a job at PayPal making almost nothing running a division. I got him a CDL as a graduation present so he can get a job. And now he has a state job that required the CDL to do it. So did his college degree contribute to maybe the advancement in his position? Possibly. Is the income increase worth the 4 years, the debt, the stress, the not working for the 4 years, only part-time to afford living there? No. Uh, his CDL will be his ticket to work forever. Currently doing an information systems and data analytics dual degree paid by Uncle Sam. If it's paid by Uncle Sam and you're not creating debt, cool. But I would also add something in the trades. This is just me, my opinion, not the right thing, but it's what I would do. Take some welding classes, get a CDL, HVAC technician school, add something to open doors. Most of the people we trained at the truck driving school that I work at, most of them got a local driving job. About 20% will never touch a truck, but their CDL opens the door to working where they're at. County job, city job, anything where equipment is involved, managing truck drivers. You want to work in dispatch? It's so much easier if you understand hours of service from the perspective of somebody who has a CDL. Uh, with AI coming, how many decades, at least two, did we have programmers going? Robots are going to replace the warehouse workers, but they can never program. How'd that work out? My son got a systems information management degree and couldn't make an access database for me when he graduated. That's not a hit on him. That's a hit on the education. College doesn't teach you how to do things. It teaches you how to learn. You need to then go and learn things. You could just learn how to learn on your own and be like the lumberjack landlord, be the smartest person I know, and never go to ninth grade. Doesn't mean degrees are bad, especially if you got the GI Bill. I've never used it. You could use the GI Bill to go get your degree. I clept courses. I did correspondence, and they had, what was it called? Something where the Marines paid 75% of the cost, and you can get the 25% waived. So it depends on when you're going and how you do your education. But Brett, I mean, are you late? It depends. Bill Clinton, great name. The problem with it today is I don't see any possible way to get cash flow on new properties in our current economy. No new property in my entire life has ever cash flowed, ever. New properties cash flow 15 years from now. I don't want a property newer than I'm 20 years old in my market. In the lumberjack landlord's market, they're 150 years old before they will cash flow. So new properties don't, single families don't in my market. I'm I'm over 50. I have 50 years of people telling me every single year why you can't own a property, why this time is different. And here's just the last 10-ish. 2013. Home prices are going above where they were in 2008. This is unsustainable and it has to crash. Even in 2011, people were saying double dip crash coming. 2015, the silver tsunami was going to crash the market. 2018, interest rates were above 6%. That sounds familiar. 2020, we had a pandemic and eviction moratorium. forbearance. 2021, you had forbearance ending. 2023, you had interest rates triple. Like every time I bought a property, everyone was saying, you can't buy properties. They'll never cash flow. Three of my deals were break-even deals. Didn't make money for the first few months that I owned them, maybe even the first year. But they're why I'm financially free after a decade of investing. It will never, this is my actual theme at BiggerPockets BPCon in October. My presentation as the keynote speaker on the last day is it will never seem like a good time to buy, ever. Imagine if interest rates dropped to zero tomorrow. That $600,000 duplex you're looking at in your market would be 2 million in 2 days. Interest rates aren't why you're not buying. If prices came down, lenders back off. So you're not buying. If enough people can buy properties like 2005 and 6, it's so easy to buy a property. It's hard to get tenants. You're not going to buy. It's owning cash flowing assets over time. Inflation makes you rich. Possible rent increases in the future, possible value adds, adding a closet to a den, uh, converting a garage to a living space. Look, anything that you're going to do 5 or 10 years from now. It's a great Bill Clinton response of this time is different. Right now, it's really hard. If I started today with zero, it would take me 10 years to be financially free, period. I've invested in worse markets than this. I can find cash flowing deals on the MLS today. There were years where I couldn't. Yeah, I had to expand my market out. I had to start looking at days on market. I had to look at problems that I would solve that no one else would. One of the deals I looked at that everyone else in my market passed on was because the owner didn't want the tenants to get kicked out. So he signed new 12-month leases with lower rents. And a lot of investors looked at it and said, "Oh, that doesn't cash flow. I can't do it." I looked at it and thought, here's the math. Rents should have been 1,800 a side. One side was rented for 15, one side was rented for 1,250. So I thought, this side's 300 low. This side's 550 low. That's $850 a month that I'm losing times 12 months. That's about 10 grand. If $10,000 was added to the purchase price of this property, what would my yield look like? And it was still a good deal. The first year, I wouldn't make any money, but it was a good deal because I'm not investing for the next year. I'm investing for the next decade. Your market, your asset class might not work. What do you have to change? The asset type, the market, add house hacking, look for value add, look for legal insider trading. Three of the places that I bought, one that were break even. One was 2 bedroom, 1 1/4. There's a quarter bath. Did you know that? Called a continental bedroom or bathroom or whatever, where there's a sink in the master bedroom. It's weird. But each side had a den with a closet. I bought it and didn't kick the tenants out. A couple of years later, one side passed away because they were that old and redid it. Den's a bedroom, rents it out, significant rent increase. The other side, uh, when they move out, add a den, both sides rent it out, so much higher because it's third bedroom each side. Another one, there was a bottleneck of traffic. It really sucked to get off of exit 111 in where there's 111, where there's a Cabela's and a Walmart and a Home Depot and traffic just sucks. Well, they redid the entire off-ramp system with a Section 8 European style, turned 26 touch points with the traffic lights into 14 and eliminated like way over half the traffic. Value shot up. The mushroom farm lost a 5-year court battle and had to move away. So a 5-mile radius smell was going away. What's going on in your market that can impact prices 2 or 4 years from now? That is legal insider trading. Everyone in your market knows this is happening. Moses Lake, Cody Davis invests there. They're adding a massive warehouse. It was, I don't know, it was 400 and something thousand square feet warehouse. More jobs, more infrastructure. What's going to happen to rents? But what type of warehouse is it? If it's a French fry factory, the smell can be just as bad as the mushroom plant. So how far out is the radius where people aren't going to want to rent, but how far out is the radius where the new workers are going to live? Like, what's happening in your market that you can benefit from? Is it you're looking at single family houses and they don't work and you got to look at a small multifamily, or is it you're looking at small multifamily and single family is the way to go? Is it you need to expand your market or is it you need to invest at a distance? There are people who invest at a distance and do just fine. Millennial Mike is a great example, right? He house hacks a duplex in a high cost of living area here in Washington where there is no R. And then he owns, last count was 27 rentals in Gary, Indiana. I haven't talked to him much in the last couple of months because of everything going on in his life, but it's probably even more than that now. You can do this, Ivan, and it is not going to be easy. Bill Clinton, sorry. You can do that. Martin is off work. Time to learn some real estate tips. There you go. Howdy, Cody. Randy, good to see you guys. Patsy, great video. YouTube started recommending you and Zuber in my feed after I finally blocked a Crash Bro. Yeah, that's the thing, because we'll watch the Crash Bro videos. Like, what amazing, magical reason do they have now for the massive crash that still hasn't happened in 10 years? And if it did happen, I would still want to buy a rental. Randy, so you don't have a crypto AI strategy. Someone claiming is using messaging me about WhatsApp. Yeah, thanks for bringing that up. I saw my Facebook post. Julie said she got one about, I forget if it was crypto or something, but financial firefighter Mark Oshiro also got it. They just spelled it's Dion. It said Dion. So you got to. It's really tricky. They use the same pictures and everything. I don't use WhatsApp unless I'm in other countries to send data and stuff. I don't invest in crypto. I don't invest in stocks. I have a link to Robinhood because I bought some stocks when Tesla went on sale a couple of months ago, and it's above the threshold of where I would buy now. But I bought it when it was 70% off, and next year, after a year, so it hits capital gains instead of income, I'll probably sell it all because I'm not a stock guy. Michael, howdy. I think pay them off and keep them paid off if you want to grow slow and conservatively. Can cash out if you have a project to buy, build, or deploy the money to make more, but don't leverage too much. I agree. So in growth mode, I wanted 70% loan to value. I didn't want more than 70%. And in retirement, I don't want more than 50%. I I don't think I would cash out to do a project, but if I had an emergency, let's say my well goes out on one property, my septic system makes me tie into sewer on another, like 10 things lined up, where all of a sudden I have a $200,000 a year. Yeah, I'd probably go put some debt on a property and take care of it because my reserves are about 50 grand. I have more money than that, but that's my emergency reserves for real estate. So it could go above that in a year. It never has. My worst year where I've replaced roofs and a complete septic system at a place was $36,000. So could it be more? Maybe. Is it? I don't know. There you go. But I'm not a fan of adding the debt. You could think of it as a safety net, maybe. I built an ADU from the backyard from that now pumps out money with extra to deploy. There you go. Build so that ADU guy, Derek, that ADU guy, he's got awesome strategy. So it's on YouTube. That ADU guy on building ADUs. I own my best performing asset is a house with an ADU that I didn't build. It just existed before I bought it. Uh, yeah, I'm a fan of saving money and putting the money to work. Chester, boy, that's a scammer impersonating Dion. Ignore and report them. Yeah, if you report those, one was taken down today already. This person also gave good real estate advice. They just attach it to AI and AI sends out the write-ups. Very easy to identify AI writing, by the way. There's three telltales. Marlon, howdy. Tehachapi, California is beautiful. We had some of the same stomping grounds. Yeah, Tehachapi's pretty. When I got out of the Marines, I was homeless for a bit, and then I got a decent job. At the time, it was decent, but I was a windmill mechanic in Tehachapi. I worked at Sea West, and that was a pretty good job. Talk about your forearms being strong, like twice what they are now, because you got 120 pounds of tools and you're going up 300-foot ladder. There was no automation to that. And yeah, you could rope your tools up, but then you got messed with by everybody. Uh, Keith, howdy. Good to see you here. Alex, Saturday works best for me, the members. So Saturday, we'll look at that. Just thinking about my liver at my age. Yes. Moderation. Brandon, in 2019, I had a real estate broker tell me all the reasons why my first four duplexes were such a bad idea. He still only has one rental. Your agent, this is from my book too. This is a section on how to find a mentor. The biggest mistake people make with mentors is your agent and your lender are not your mentors. They don't have your resources, your timeline, or your goals. And their job, your agent's job is to close deals. Your lender's job is to sell loan products. So good job knowing they weren't your mentor and not listening to them. The grumpy contractor. Howdy. Without the low rates that you were able to refinance your properties, how much longer would the hockey stick actually? It happened before I refinanced. 2018 was when the hockey stick started to kick in. 2020, I think without refinancing, my cash flow right now, I refinanced four properties, increased cash flow by about 16, 17. No, I have to do the math. Like $1,400 a month, 21,000. So if I didn't get to refinance, I'd only be making 19-ish thousand. Still more than four times what I need. So low rates are nice. Don't let interest rates or taxes wag the dog, right? That was a good question. Randy Moy, there you go. Chester, FreedomWorks. It's quite a resilient organ, but it's not indestructible, unfortunately. FreedomWorks. One of my property managers really wants to use WhatsApp with me. Is that a red flag? I'm not good at technology and don't even know what WhatsApp is. WhatsApp is like a cheating app. It's some way you can communicate with people without people knowing, but it breaks the barrier between iPhone and Android where you can send pictures and video without degradation of the quality of what you're sending. It also works really good if you're going out of the country to send information. So I've used WhatsApp out of the country a lot. I don't know that it's a red flag as long as they're also willing for communication to go through email when you want to, because WhatsApp, texts, and voicemails are often not allowed in court, but emails are in most courts admissible in court. So if something important is happening and they're willing to email you, it's not a red flag. If they go WhatsApp only and we won't do email, I'm out. Cool. I want to thank everybody for hanging out with me on a Tuesday. You ran this, what it is, right? It's Tuesday. Course call this week is going to be Thursday, 6 p.m. It looks like I only got one vote for Saturday. So Alex, remind me, Saturday, members only. The members only calls, we learn the deal analysis skill. We practice it. And talking about it takes about 45 minutes. So we pick a deal either in my market or in somebody else's market. We actually go to the website, we're in Zoom, we share the screen. In 45 minutes, we look at all of the aspects that makes a deal a good deal or a bad deal. Math takes about 5 minutes and it's done at about the half-hour mark. That's how far into a deal analysis where math even starts to play in. There's so much more that we look at a rental property. And just off the top of my head, probably missing a bunch, we read it like a marketing advertisement, left to right, top to bottom. Identify what you're looking at. Where is it? What is it? Duplex, house, ADU, 4 units or less. Is it going to qualify for the lending that you want? Is it within your price range? Is it in an area you wouldn't invest in no matter what? We're looking for immediately disqualifiers. Is it, for me, foreclosure, short sale, or HOA? Done. I'm out. I'm not buying them. Then, before we look at pictures, because that could take time, we go to the map. We expand the map out. We look for things that could make tenant turnover worse. Is there something with a strong smell? Something with a strong noise? There was one that we looked at where that literally it was adjacent to a club, and the person who suggested it, who was here in the chat today, said, my agent says this college is a problem. And I'm like, oh, the college means demand. It's that club that would make me not want to look at this deal. So we look at the area, then we go down to Street View. We look at things you can easily tell from Street View without accuracy because we don't know when the picture was taken. But are there bars on windows? Literal dumpster fires, cars on their sides or blocks, things that you would say, well, I wouldn't want to own in that area. Then we go to the property and we actually look at the description because this is a marketing ploy and they are allowed to say what they're allowed to lie on the MLS or in Zillow or Redfin. It even says it's your job to do due diligence to look at these things, but we look at what they're marketing to see if there's something we might miss, like when were recent updates done or additions done or problems that people don't want to solve that might be something you're okay with. Then we go through that. Then we make sure we verify a second time that there's no HOA. We find out what the taxes would be. Then we do a quick rent study, which would take normally 2 weeks, but you'll know your market. We do a rent study that takes a few minutes. We'll look at rentometer, Section 8, BAH, Zillow, Realtor, Redfin to look at what rentals are in the area that have the same number of units. And we'll do a rent study to figure out, okay, what is the area average rent, which again, in reality takes at least 2 weeks, but we're just doing this as a skill. And we go based on these rents at the list price with the current interest rate that we think we can get. What does my yield look like? So we're about 30 minutes in now, and we finally go, okay, here's what the math looks like. Now we go, okay, this is a bad deal. That's why it's sitting on the MLS. Almost everything on the MLS is going to lose money. It won't make sense. But how long has it been sitting on the MLS? How much negotiation power are you going to have with problems that the property has that you can maybe get the price better? Could you buy down the rate? What happens if you go a different strategy, midterm, short term? Play with all the numbers to figure out, okay, this is a bad deal, uh, or this is a deal I'm going to set to the side, take note of, and check in on every couple of weeks until maybe it's been listed long enough for a lower price to make sense. And then after that, we go through and we look at all of the different ways the property can be used. We look at Now we go to the pictures because that's one of the last things we do because it takes the longest to load them. Are there washer dryer hookups in every unit? Is there enough parking for the strategy you want to use? Are there pet friendly fenced yards? What aspects of this property are going to increase tenant turnover or help limit tenant turnover? 45 minutes to learn a skill that once you learn it takes about a minute and a half. 90 seconds to determine, is this something I'm going to dig deeper into, set aside and track, or just put an X through it because that seller is ridiculous. Saturday for the thing. Thank you. Freedom works. Sounds okay. Then because this property manager gives me a lot more info than I really need, they're always sending me a lot of videos, the work they're doing. Videos are good. I like to get videos from handymen too. Work that you're doing, interaction with the tenant, all of that. Everybody have a day full of amazing. Hopefully my book comes out soon. Editing is happening now. You will be alive in 5 years. Start investing like it.